Okay, sorry.
Welcome, everyone. It is Wednesday. That means it is time for Neuro Wednesdays. We have Jerome here, but before we begin, I just want to warn everybody that Trump is talking at a NATO conference. So be careful of any tape bombs this morning, because obviously he opens his mouth and we have something terrible that happens, usually against your position. Now, Jerome, I believe you are in a position right now, aren't you?
Yeah, but somewhere else. But yeah, I'm in a short,
Yeah,
so I hope it's gonna
yeah,
take me in profit. My
yeah.
profit is right below this level, so 7 points
Okay,
below.
okay. Nice, nice, nice. Okay, so hopefully no tape bombs will happen, or if they do, fingers crossed it goes your way. All right, so yeah, now that that's out of the way, welcome everyone. Wednesdays are the day that we dedicate to the neuroscience part of trading. Why? Because we can have a great system and we can think that our strategy is amazing, but then something happens in our heads and we start messing it up. So Jerome's here to help us navigate through complexities of how our brains work so that we can get better as traders as we mature and as we start to find out things about ourselves that are a little bit negative. And therefore, there are ways to replace those learned behaviors with something better that will help you generate a positive expectancy as we move forward. Jerome, what have you got for us? Good morning.
Well, good morning. What a beautiful introduction. Couldn't say better. How's everybody been doing for the last week?
Yeah, let's see. Chat, let's hear it. Have you
Good
been
morning, Andrew,
using
as well. Thanks for being
techniques?
here today.
Yes, Andrew is helping us moderate. So Bruno is busy today, and we have lovely Andrew that will be helping me with everyone's questions. We have Midnight Live saying Jay is a trader, Jerome is a trader. Yes, he's actually one of the top traders. He at one point you were top 5, I believe. So
Yes.
yes, this is why it's so good. This is why it's so good. We have not only somebody who's a doctor, but we also have somebody who's also a trader. Therefore, he is somebody who can understand us a lot better than a random therapist that you might go to, who largely can maybe have a somewhat of an understanding of how trading works. But I feel that the best neuropsychiatrists and people who help us psychologically are the ones who are trading themselves, people like Brett Steenbarger and Robin. This is a very unique kind of situation where all of your self-limiting beliefs start bubbling up to the surface. So yeah, what have you got for us today?
That's beautiful. So for today, what we have is the topic we mentioned last week, and we discussed that could be interesting. So it's learning, the process of learning. What does happen in the brain when we learn something? So I'm gonna try to fully focus into trading, but basically the concepts of learning can be applied into anything you learn. So if you're a student, for example, you can take advantage of these concepts and try to reproduce them into your studies. That's exactly what I did when I was studying medicine. And that's how I approach the process of trading as well. I try to understand what's happening in my brain. And today the goal is to make you understand lightly which regions, which zones in the brain are involved, how they work independently and together as well, and what you can do to identify what's your stage in your learning journey, and what you can do to improve it and reduce what you don't do well, because we've all been at school at some point, and we all know that there's some stuff we do well and some stuff we don't do well in learning. And so the goal is to improve what you do well, reduce what you don't. And the thing I've noticed in trading for myself and for others, many others, is that 99% of us get into trading with almost zero knowledge, right? Unless you've been in finance, unless you've been in trading. Prop firm trading funding companies allow us to bridge to bridge the access to this industry, which is wonderful. The bad points is or that you don't have knowledge, but we we don't instantly look at ourselves in the mirror and like, yeah, I don't know nothing. You know nothing. So you start on YouTube, you start to follow some people, you start to learn. And the thing is, your brain tricks you. Your brain takes, and we're gonna go through that today. Your brain takes any knowledge and prints it, anchors it as memory in your hippocampus as is. So if it's a false knowledge, okay, what we call intox, you don't know it is yet, but it is. So your brain will process that as a truth. So what if you learn something that is wrong and you don't know it yet? And perhaps it could take years before you know it was wrong, right? So then we get into cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance is when you believe 1 plus 1 equals 22, and whatever I show you, you're going to believe 1 plus 1 equals 22. But you don't know you're wrong. And the goal is not to tell you you're wrong. The goal is to show you a different perception of what you have in your mind. And cognitive dissonance is not accepting that. It's believing that if the market does that and that, then I should long. And then if the market goes down, then you are not wrong. The market is. So then if you start thinking like that, you're in the trap. So today's session is going to be focused about learning, what happens when we learn, what is positive learning, what is negative learning, and how you can improve your learning process. How does that sound?
Sounds amazing. Yes, I think I've definitely run into this myself because many moons ago, I think it's about 16 years ago, I had an account that I built up for 2 years and I was really proud of it. But then at one point, I decided to trade another product that I've never traded. And I was, still a novice trader. And I was sure that it has to keep going long. I got so biased and it just kept running through my stop. And then I kept entering and entering. And then obviously I found out what a margin call was. It was a big learning moment for me because up until that point I had a lot of success and I hadn't had many, I stuck to my guns. When I lost one trade, it was only risking like 1% of the account. And I was only finding setups every couple of weeks because I was a swing trader back then. But that time when I got completely biased, I was sure that I was right and that it has to turn around. It was like almost me trying to will my desire on the market. As we know, that never works and we have to stay objective. And this is exactly the moment when I decided to learn everything that I could about how the brain works and why it happened to me. So this is why I'm, very open to the neuroscience, and I'm still learning to this day. It's a never-ending journey, and you can always improve, and you can always find new issues that arise even after 18 years of me doing this.
That is beautiful. Don't worry, we all learn. I still learn
Yeah.
in neuroscience as well, so there's always something to learn.
Yes, exactly.
Don't worry about it.
I think when we
Sure.
stop learning, that's when trouble begins. When you think you
Yeah,
know everything, it's like, no, you don't.
exactly. I mean, that's when you start the melting process of the brain,
Yeah.
atrophia and cognitive dissonance. Like this is another topic, but yeah, exactly. I could have included that. That's a good point. So let's dive into it. And please, if you have any questions, please feel free to share. So basically, the learning process in the brain is a multi-system process. Okay, learning is not a single event. It's not an input of information and output or whatever. You have basically five areas involved. Most probably more, but to keep this simple, we're gonna keep these five areas, and it's a coordinated process across different networks. So you have the hippocampus, so that encodes the context and the sequence of the experiences. So, for example, trade logs, market events, liquidation, profit, etc. Whatever you see and feel, whatever you experience, your hippocampus is gonna uh, process it and encode it. Okay, and it's gonna encode it through your own perception of the out world. Okay, and then your PFC, your prefrontal cortex, is gonna maintain your working memory, what we call the working memory, the memory involved in tasks, active tasks, and supports your strategic decision making. Remember, the PFC is the cognitive area of the brain, and for decision making process as well. And that is the zone you need under uncertainty. Because remember, your brain has always a dilemma between the limbic system, the emotional system, and the logic one, rational one, the PFC. So your goal is to make the voice of the PAC louder when you need it.
Mhm.
So then you have the BG, the basal ganglia. So this forms the automatic habits through repetition and pattern recognition. For example, execution under pressure. And we've spoken about the basal ganglia a lot of times, especially for the go and no-go actions. So as a reminder, what is a go action? For example, I get a notification on my phone. A go action would be to look at my phone, and my brain sends me the signal. uh, you have a notification on your phone, you want to check it. I decide if I check it. Remember, you decide, you send the signal to your hands and your hand takes the phone. It's not like it looks like it's automatic, but the decision making is, the motor action isn't. So you take the phone because it's automatic. So when you lose a trade and you get frustrated, is it automatic to revenge trade? Some people, they revenge trade and they don't understand. Perhaps the decision making is automatic, and you perhaps don't realize it, but it's a system you have, a network you have, that you fed, you gave something to feed with, but you can also not feed it anymore, and it will not die, but it will go in the back. So you do this with no go actions. So I have a notifications, my phone is lighted, I don't take it. Like, okay, I check it just to check if it's not an emergency, for example. Okay, I don't have to open it. Okay, I see a setup, for example. Let's say you have 4 conditions to enter your trade as entry like rules. You have only 3 of them, and the last one is like a strict condition. So you wanna have it checked, but your brain is like, see how it's
Whatever.
pumping, the fundamental is pumping. Like,
Yeah.
you could get in, right? I mean, what is it? It's gonna win, right? So then you have the choice: go or no go. If you're disciplined enough, if you're strong enough, and you don't have to be that strong, but you just need to be it enough. Then
I think
you'll be
uh,
able. Yeah, go
if
ahead.
I could just add to this, I think it would maybe be more helpful to have a no-go action after losing a trade, because I've seen through coaching that many people have this almost like a learned behavior that when they lose a trade, they try again immediately, and they don't necessarily see it as a problem. They're like, oh, as soon as I lose a trade, I enter another one. I would argue that that is probably an automatic response to your brain thinking it's made a mistake and it wants to correct it. Is that error related negativity that kind of suddenly crops up as an automatic behavior, I think. And maybe having a no-go action that is conscious after you lose a trade, your no-go action should be do not enter again for a while until you know what's happening, just to kind of break that pattern of I lose a trade, I enter another one, lose a trade, I enter another one. So that needs to stop. That's definitely a bad habit across the board. Whoever you are, whatever you trade, that is going to harm the accounts. So when you make that mistake, you have to take it on the chin and just go, okay, now we breathe. Let's see what happens. Would you agree
Exactly.
with that?
Completely. And you mentioned a perfect example, and I'm gonna follow up on it. You can also create. This is a bit tricky, but very simple. You can create a double hybrid solution. So let's take your example again. You lose a trade. Your go automatic action network is to take a revenge trade, whether it's a process based one or not. Most of the times it isn't. You take another trade. So I'm gonna give you 2 solutions. One of them is a go action, the other is a no go action. That is why it's a double hybrid solution.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you lose a trade. Go action. I stand up. Actually, it's a double go action, but you're gonna get the point. I stand up for 1 minute. You just stand up for 1 minute. Not 2, not 5, not 3. Don't get out of the room or for a walk, whatever. Just stand up for 1 minute and lock out your account for 1 minute. If you're on a platform that can't lock your account, then like respect yourself and don't touch your trade for one account. It doesn't mean you should trade the second minute. I'm telling you to do this. I mean, I'm advising you to do this so you can create neural networks for the go action and the go no go action, and that will make your brain lose attention on the other network, which is the go action of revenge trading. And this is the Hebb's principle. Neurons that fire together wire together, and the opposite is true as well. So this is again what we use in compulsive behavior therapy in CBT. So to make you lose the impulse, the desire, the inner impulse of a compulsive behavior, whether it's smoking, drinking, drugs, sex sometimes, uh, self-sabotaging as well, or many other examples. There's a pattern, a network in the brain that keeps getting repeated, and there's you if you've been with us for a long time, you can replay. But we've done an early session about habit pattern, and you always have a cue, a trigger, and a reaction. And so for any pattern, you have something that triggers, that starts the network to go on, right? To start a car, you need to put the key in. So in the brain, it's the same. It's exactly the same. Sometimes you're in a good mood, sometimes you're in a bad mood. It depends which networks are active. And so when you understand this basal game, for example, for smoking, we often advise people or patients to, for example, when they finish eating, usually you have this automatic go action, which is, oh, light one. You want to light one, it helps digestion, etc. Okay, I'm not telling you to not light a cigarette after eating. I'm telling you to make a no-go action, which is a go intention. The no-go action would be, don't smoke for 5 minutes after finishing eating. Just 5 minutes. Wait 5 minutes. It's not that much. 1 minute won't be enough. 5 minutes is good enough, and just start with that and stick to it religiously for 21 days. And each and every day you're going to have one homework, which is to answer this question: how hard was it to stick to the 5 minutes today? And I am 100% confident it will get more and more comfortable and easier with time within this 21-day window.
So why don't we make this into a little homework for people who are watching and they want to work on themselves? If you are having trouble with entering a revenge trade after you lose one, why don't we make it a task that for the next 21 days, whenever you lose a trade, you're going to lock yourself out for 5 minutes. Let's say 5 minutes, right? And you will then mark how difficult it was to wait for those 5 minutes before you can enter another trade. Is that a good homework to have?
That's beautiful. Hope people stick to it. I'm very curious, actually, how many people first follow one or multiple of the things we share here, and what's the frequency of that? Are they able to follow it like almost diligently, religiously every day? Is it like twice, thrice a week? I'm very curious. Please share in the chat if you've been with us for some time, even if it's for 2 weeks. And please share what you've been using, what has helped you. If you want to do a written testimony, I mean, we would be the happiest here, because this is what we do it for. We do it to share to you what we've gone through. We're not the best. We will never claim being the best. Just here sharing our 2 cents for you, for the community, trying to merge some healthcare concepts and scientific concepts to trading, and things you can almost all of it apply to your personal and daily life, and also in healthcare. So this is also beyond trading.
So Coach Carter says, "Hey guys, over the past 18 months, I have been trading using a playbook and also journaling. But come June, I couldn't find setups as price fluctuations were different." Well, we do have some weirdness in the markets right now, right? We have the threat of headline risk. So, I mean, the fact that you've been trading for the last 18 months with no problem, I don't know. Like, are you struggling maybe with more range bound days and then out of nowhere it goes into a trend? Is that maybe a problem? So, I would maybe advise to go back and see if you can come up with another playbook, because you said you were using a playbook. Is that just one? Because in my way of trading, I have about 7 core playbooks and then variations on them. Maybe it's a matter of being in a quieter period, because we didn't really have a quiet period last year during the summer. It was all pretty lively. But this time around, I am noticing more and more days where not much is happening on some days, and then we get headline risk, and then suddenly everything starts moving. So perhaps that's more of a strategy issue than psychology issue. I mean, I'm sure it's affecting you, but yeah, maybe I will work on the strategy part there as well. Okay, let's have a look. Bryant says, "I accidentally put on a 5 lot of platinum this morning instead of a 1 lot. I lost almost immediately. Within 30 seconds, I was in another trade. Typically, it takes me at least an hour to find a trade." So is this the ERN, error-related negativity? Jerome, you still with us?
Sorry. Yeah,
I
yeah. I
said,
was reading a
yeah,
comment. How
yeah.
long is one bar candle on the 1 minute candle? 1 minute. I was tricked by a question. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Brian said that he accidentally put on a 5 lot on platinum instead of 1, immediately lost, and then entered another trade within 30 seconds. So I said, is that ERN,
Oh wow.
error-related negativity?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's exactly what we highlighted here. Unfortunately,
Mm,
sorry for your
yeah.
problem.
Yeah. It's always tough, but whenever I do that, and I still sometimes find myself in, like, 5 minis instead of 5 micros, I just literally shut it down, and I'm like, okay, ouch. Let's move on to the next one. So it doesn't really bother me that much. But yeah, you definitely have to stop yourself from re-entering again. I typically give myself half an hour if I make a mistake, because obviously now you have a loss to deal with as well on top of everything. Like, not only did you make a mistake, but that mistake resulted in a bit bigger loss than you anticipated. And because of that, I don't want to trade from that point of view. And to me, it takes me 30 minutes to actually clear my head out, reset, and then come back with fresh eyes and try not to look at the P&L. This is where hiding your P&L might be useful. Just imagine it's not there and start again. If you still have equity available on the day in relation to the daily loss limit, if you have any. This is where daily loss limits are helpful. It can help you not lose more than you should, and I'm surprised that more people are not using it. I know some people are against daily loss limits. Just be mindful that in the live account you will have a daily loss limit. They do not allow people to trade without it, not to my knowledge anyways. So you have to kind of earn your way to bigger loss limits, just like it used to be, right?
Exactly. And I want to say thank you to Trading Nichols. He said he invited a friend. He's been talking to about what he's learned here. So yeah, thank you very much. We're grateful for that. Hoping your friend is here today and will take benefits.
It's
Many
beautiful.
people, a couple of people commented and shared what they think about. So that's very cool. Uh, I hope you guys have a real benefit on what's shared here. So yeah, I'm just gonna follow on learning. Do we have any students here? I'm curious. Do we have people at school that I would be very happy of to help you learn better, because I struggle with that. We've had actually courses about how to learn at uni, so we can learn, we can be more efficient and optimized in our learning, because we have so much lessons in med school that we have to optimize our brains. You basically become a robot. No joke. You
Yeah.
basically become a robot learning. There's a joke here in France. Perhaps it's the same in Anglo-Saxon countries. Uh, there's a teacher who asks, who says there's an exam, okay, and you gotta learn these and these, and this teacher has engineers and med school students, okay, engineering students and med school students, med students. So basically, the engineers, they ask, what for, like why do we have to learn
Yeah.
this?
Why? Yeah.
And the med school students, they ask when for. Just give me the date, give me the date, and that's all we need. Just
Yeah.
to know when we have.
Doctors, that you guys need so much memory. Like the stuff that you have to memorize at any one point, it's absolutely insane. Any other profession, you can sort of get away with, visual memory and then kind of knowing some things and then practically knowing how physics work, like for example engineers, but they don't have to have like this elephant like memory where you can recall stuff. I actually have quite a lot of medical students, or medical doctors and practitioners as well on my program, because a lot of them went into trading because they found it interesting, they want to expand their knowledge, and they wanted to trade profitably. So I accepted quite a few of them, and I was shocked at how much they just learn and they just bring out all of these like different parts of the method in like seemingly just like a split second. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. Now let's apply that. Like, it's actually a really good transferable skill to have. Not everybody has it. I have really good memory as well. But for me, it's more like to do with visual photographic side of things. So I can drag out pictures in my head. That's why I like to learn through flowcharts. But for medical students, it's like you give them a text that's just like dry, textual, and they're just like, yeah, I'll learn this, no problem. And that's something that you can use in trading, because that it means that you can rely on your memory to bring up certain valuable points and maybe conditions that you're thinking of for a particular setup in a split second. And not everybody's going to have that. So yeah, do we have any students here? Do we have
Just
any?
checking for my sound. I tried something. Some people are saying my sound is low
Oh,
compared to
okay.
yours. I tried to change something. Please let me know if it's better. If it's not, I don't know if you can do this on your side, D.
I can try. Let's see.
I changed the settings on my mic, but I don't know if it
Let's
increases the
try
sound or
now.
reduces.
Let's try
One two
try
one
now.
two. Mic
Is this
test.
better? Chat, is it better? Jerome's mic?
Better.
Okay.
Let's
Yeah.
say yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. All
Yep.
right. Here we
I
go.
am.
Lupek. Yeah. Lupek is a student.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Awesome.
So yeah, I mean, you have the, yeah, I can finish. You have the cerebellum as well that handles the error correction. So that's the problem Brian just had. His cerebellum was disabled, let's say. It couldn't process the feedback and couldn't keep his hand not clicking. That's what the cerebellum does, the motor connection, but not only does that. And the amygdala assigns the emotional weight to outcomes. You remember it's the center of emotions. So basically you have 4 phases, 4 steps in neurocognitive learning. Okay. Acquisition, consolidation, recall, and rewiring. Acquisition, consolidation, recall, and rewiring. That's how I name them, but you can give them other names. Perhaps you can find in the literature different number of phases, but basically you will see it follows the same process. So the first phase is when you get new inputs, okay, or inputs, but usually there's always something new most of the time. So you can have chart patterns, setups, volume anomalies, news, stuff like that. Attention and novelty increase encoding via the hippocampus. Remember, the hippocampus is the zone that encodes, but this is important to remember novelty. Remember novelty, and we'll speak about it later. So attention and novelty increase your encoding capacity. So then you consolidate the information you got. So during rest and sleep, the neuro information you got, they are replayed and strengthened. And we say sleep is your synaptic cement. So I remember when I was at school, at uni, I had some good nights, some worst nights, and the nights I couldn't sleep well, or I didn't have a good quality of sleep, I could clearly recall not properly anchoring the knowledge. Like when I woke up, I could literally not remember what I learned the previous day. I was like, what the heck? Like I spent 10 hours learning like my lessons and I can't remember none. Like that was a crazy feeling and very, very like not comfortable feeling, very uncomfortable, but how can I explain it? Very troubling, confusing feeling. And when you're a student, you don't have time to get confused, right? You don't have energy to get confused. So
Yeah.
that's real, especially in med school. So that's tricky. So then you recall. So that's what I did the next day, what I just expressed. Can you access and apply this info under pressure? Recall depends on how deeply and emotionally it was encoded. And this we'll talk about it later as well. And then you rewire. Mistakes lead to prediction error signals. If reflected upon properly, remember, we always speak about reflection, always, right? Reflection, reflect and recall, reflect and recall. This is essential. This is part of the learning and the journey, trading journey, and whatever journey you have. So if reflected properly with attention and emotion, they can trigger synaptic pruning and remapping. And so when you understand the process of these, you will understand properly when you learn well and when you don't. So let's speak about dopamine. We often speak about dopamine in a bad way, but let's speak about it in a good way as well. So it's not just about feeling good or dopamine addiction. Okay, it's a signal that your expectation was wrong, and this is called reward prediction error. If this is very basic, if the outcome is better than expected, then you have an increase in dopamine, and then that reinforces your behavior. You take a trade, you believe the setup is valid, you take the trade, you win, you increase your dopamine. It reinforces the behavior, your belief in which the strategy is valid in this setup. If you take a setup, it doesn't happen the way you think, if worse than expected, then you have a dopamine burst down, and then this is a mark for update. You reflect on it. But what most people do, they think, okay, perhaps the strategy is not good, or the market was wrong, or my stop loss was too low, blah, blah, blah. In trading, when you expect a level to hold but it fails, the brain flags that scenario for revision. But when you follow your plan and it works, the brain tags that pattern as reliable. And I'm 100% sure all of you can relate and resonate with that, because every single day we go through these, unless you don't take a trade. But you can even apply these without trading. Okay, and we're going to speak about it right after. So basically, backtesting is what we could call dopamine training ground. Okay, but only if you're tracking the errors, if you review the mismatches, if you review the fact that your strategy needs 4 conditions and you entered with 3, or you indeed waited for 4, and you allow enough emotional engagement to signal relevance. Most of the time I see people with backtest, but for example, they use 5 NQs in funded, not
Unrealistic.
funded,
Yeah.
in challenge
Yeah.
or demo,
Hmm.
exactly. And but when they are in the funded at the funded level, they have 2 or 3 NQs max. So it's unrealistic, and they train themselves on something that is irrelevant.
Yeah, here's
So
also a problem with practice accounts. When we say practice account, people are like, oh, I'm going to full port 15 NQs and see what happens. And then they're like, I always make money on a practice account. That's because you're not practicing under realistic conditions. You are training yourself to do something that you probably won't be in a position to do for quite a while in your trading career, getting up to 15 contracts. So what is the point? You're just training yourself wrong. And I think using a practice account and combines as well in that regard is the reason for high rate of failure in the XFAs, because you never train yourself on consistency and outcomes and expectancy trading 1NQ or 5MNQ. I know it's boring, but you're supposed to use that account for something that will help you in the real world situations, not for something that is dreamland. And I always draw the parallels of going to actual war as a soldier versus playing paintball with your friends. Both involve some guns and chasing each other and shooting, but they have vastly different risk. One is a proper risk to your life. The other one is just a bit of fun. You get shot by some paint. Oh, yeah, great. And that's exactly the same thing that people are doing with practice accounts and trading 15NQ in a safe environment, and then never developing the skills to actually trade sustainably with the size that you're supposed to be trading in a real funded account. So maybe we can change that. Don't use practice accounts for unrealistic purposes. Trade with the same size that you will be trading in your funded account.
I'm just gonna change my connection, so I might get disconnected.
Okay, I'm gonna tackle some comments here in the meantime while you do that. Okay, Coach Carter. So you said a couple of things here, and I actually ran into a similar problem with one of my. Okay, you're fine. You didn't get lost. So I actually had somebody in my VIP last season that had an exactly same comment, except they were trading NQ. And they were always using 10 points on NQ, and then when everything started flying, they just decided to stay out. And I was like, well, how long do you plan on staying out? Because it's been like 3 weeks now. And he was like, well, I always use 10 points. I can't, I'm not even in a trade for like 3.5 seconds. And I'm like, yeah, that's because the stop loss that you're using is for another type of volatility. It's not for this volatility. So we cannot be super rigid with our stop losses. Stop losses should be volatility adjusted. Okay. And I think that's your issue here. So you say, I'm risking 1% of my account. That's fine. But also 1% of the maximum drawdown on prop. Is this your personal account? Is this a prop account? Is this Topstep? Is this somewhere else? That would be helpful to know. And then you're saying not to risk more than 50 pips. And then you mention a Forex pair, ZAO USD, which is gold. And then you say volatility left me with 70, 80 pips to play stop loss, and I didn't want to execute. That's only like a third, if that, barely a third of an increase in the stop loss size. So why don't you size down and then still adjust your volatility of adjusted stop to 80 ticks? I don't see the problem. So you adjust the stop, you increase the target as well, because the volatility works both ways. You need larger stops, but you can get larger targets too. So why don't you just size down a bit and keep going? Is that maybe the reason? So, we cannot be like super married to the stop loss size. Like my stop losses go from anywhere from like 35 ticks all the way to 110 ticks, depends on what's going on volatility wise, right? We can't just stop trading because suddenly there's a bit more volatility. Yeah. Donald Keys says, great advice. This is why I want a feature to limit the number of contracts you can trade in a Topstep account, just like a daily lockout limit. I do believe they're working on that, actually. And that will come at some point. But for now, you do need to, like in the live account, you actually do have a limit. So you can't go over a certain amount. Otherwise, the system is just going to reject it. So that's another plus of trading in the live account. But yeah, for now, you just have to get maybe the maximum default size in your head. If that's 5 micros, that's 5 micros. And just try never to go over that. Maybe make that into a task. This week or for the next 20 days, I will only use 5 micros, and stick to it. That will also train your habits to not deviate from the rules that you set for yourself. All right,
That's
you're
beautiful.
back. You're back. Yes.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, lovely.
So let's talk about myelination. Myelination. Don't know how we pronounce it. Repetition builds speed and stability. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So learning is physical as well. Every time you repeat a skill, your neurons, okay, they wrap their axons. So neuron is brain cells or brain cells. A synapse is a connection between two neurons. Okay. And the link between two neurons, a synapse, is what we call an axon. Okay. And around the axon, imagine a tube. There's myelin. Okay. It's a sort of fatty sheath that increases speed of transmission, reduces signal like leakage, loss of signal, and creates more automaticity under pressure. And when you have these sheaths on axons, you can imagine information. They make what we call synaptic bounces. Like they bounce information, bounces between synapses. This is like very much fascinating, actually. And this is how fast information is. I don't remember the speed, but it's by memory, I think it's several hundreds meters per second. I think it was 300 meters per second, something like that. I
Wow,
should check that.
that's fast.
Yeah, let me
It's
check
crazy.
it.
Are we like just biological computers?
Oh no, yeah, it's like it could go to 75, 100 meters per second. Yeah,
Wow.
that's very fast.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
so yeah, that's how fast information is. So, and you're gonna like it. The studies in musicians and athletes, our mostly taken examples, 2 examples, they show that deliberate feedback informed repetition increases the myelin density, and especially when spaced over time. So the information you process goes faster, you process it faster, you process it better, and the networks you have, they work faster and better. So if your network is wrong, I mean, if your way of processing the information is wrong, it will not matter. Your system will be strong. But what you should know, what you should realize, what you should identify is if your system is right. Actually, remember, one of the things I do every day, and every time I learn something new, I try to verify the source of the information I have in front of me. You should question, and you should even question what I tell you. You should double check it. You should do your own research. DYOR. Do your own research. Verify your information. Perhaps you're not me, but perhaps you're following somebody that gives you information, and just because in your perception, in your mind, you're like, oh yeah, he's God, and you're just listening to them. How many spokesperson? How many people go on stage? They sell conferences. Forget about trading. They sell like stuff. They just speak well. You know, they have a good eloquence. They speak well. They use nice words. They have a nice semantic. But it's BS. Sorry, it's BS. And
Politicians. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, for example, exactly.
Central bankers, they talk up a storm. And yet most of them say absolutely nothing. When you kind of bring it down, you're like, they just said nothing for 90 minutes. It's crazy.
And yeah, exactly. And so yeah, verify your information. And in trading, repeating your system without feedback is repetition without refinement. You're going blind. No, you're like, oh yeah, perhaps like it should be okay. This should lead me to a destination. Perhaps there's a hole. You're not watching. You're just going into a hole. And repeating with reflection is repetition with precision. And this gets built over weeks to months. Remember, in 21 days, you build a strong habit network, but in 90 days, you implement it strongly in your whole lifestyle. This is very important to consider and think about. So today, why do we speak about learning? We wanted to share about strategy building, because in trading, if you don't know about trading, you need to build a strategy. And I've gone through this process for a whole year, and for my second year, I am refining the first process I did. And it takes years, perhaps decades, to have a close to perfect, nothing is, of course, a close to perfect strategy. And markets environment and conditions change, so you should change your strategy as well. You should adapt, not change. You should adapt your
Adapt. Yeah.
strategy to market conditions. And
Yeah.
uh, we are not trees, we move. We're not fixed to the ground, right? People think they are trees. Oh, I have a strategy, I built it 25 years ago, the market doesn't change, I'm going to apply it still. Okay, I mean, I'm not telling you you're
Mhm.
wrong, I'm just saying you should adapt. And some people, they use the same strategy for 20 years, yet they adapt to the market and are still profitable. And I'm speaking about profitable pit traders. Most of them have not changed their strategy, but they have adapted it to market conditions.
Yeah, I have my my own view on that, because I've met a lot of pit traders that did not make the transition successfully at
Okay.
all, and they're not trading anymore precisely because they did
Oh,
not want to relearn everything. The people that we see on Topstep, like Eddie, Hogue, don't know whether JD was in the pits, but you know, anyone who traded in the pits and who made it through the whole transitional period into electronic trading, those are the odd ones out. They're the people who went, okay, things have changed, throw away everything that I knew about the pit, or most of it, and let's relearn this thing. That's so much more difficult than those of us coming from just like a, you know, electronic trading. Because I started in 2007. I was never in the pits, right? I was always an electronic trader. I did not have to make that sort of an adjustment. I had to make an adjustment from swing trading to intraday, but that's still all electronic trading. You still, you know, see pretty much similar information, maybe to a lot more of a granular level. So the strategies need to be a little bit more elaborate in order to take in the open sentiment of the session and, you know, intraday timing, maybe smaller stops. And, you know, it doesn't allow for mistakes as much as, let's say, swing trading. Swing trading, I would argue, is easier. It's slower by frequency of trades as well, and not nearly as sensitive to any inconsistencies that a trader have. But the pit traders that you see now, they are the ones who stood the test of time because they adapted, because they threw away everything that they knew about pit trading and they went into it with a fresh mindset and just going with the time, saying, okay, well, things have changed. If I want to keep trading, I have to change everything now. That was so difficult. I speak to Hogue fairly frequently, and Coach Hoop as well. Hoop is also one of the guys that comes from the pits. It required an immense open-mindedness to just say, whatever I learned for the past 20 years is not going to serve me well here. Now I need to open my mind to take in this new stuff that is in front of me, the candlestick charts, and how do I read order flow with just the dome, or, you know, time and sales, or when I don't see the person next to me sweating away and me knowing that they're not doing very well, so therefore I'm going to trade against them. You know, it's a very, very different environment. So full respect to all former pit traders who have survived to this day. I don't think they get enough credit for how much ingenuity and creativity and courage it took to actually do that. So I just wanted to set the record straight there.
preach. Yeah, yeah. We've spoken about
Yeah.
that in a previous session as well, about how hard it is because of the habit and the automatisms you
Yeah.
build at the pit. You know, they yell, they physically put orders
Fight
like,
or flight. Yeah, it was all about
yeah,
fight or flight
exactly,
instinct.
100%.
Fight or get
Exactly.
pushed in
So
the background, you know?
the transition,
Right.
yeah, it's very difficult.
We have a question from Thomas Kane. This is great, guys. Very fascinating. Is there a reason that the brain, when under stress, seems to favor the amygdala response in the limbic system over the prefrontal cortex? Well, it's the fight or flight, isn't it?
Exactly. Yes, that's so I mentioned to this individual that we mentioned this previously, so we can find it in the slides deck. But basically, you have a battle between your PFC, like the rational logical brain, and the limbic system, the emotional like circuits network in the brain. And so it's like basically two voices yelling, and you choose which one you want to listen to. And once you choose the one you listen to, the other one quiets down. So
Yeah, but I
if
think
you're
part of the problem is that our brains can't tell the difference, and we talked about that before as well. They can't tell the difference between an actual death threat and some money lost on the screen in the account. So therefore, it kicks up your fight or flight response, which overrides the PFC.
yeah,
And
exactly.
then
So sorry, yeah,
everything to
exactly.
do with the fight or flight response starts happening, which is the adrenaline kicks up, glycogen reserves start getting drained from your muscles. Your body is basically preparing to fight or to run, but it's not the same, right? We have to recognize that this is just some money on the, some money lost. It's not an actual death
Exactly.
threat. It's not going to kill you. But for some reason, our brains are a little bit weird and they can't tell the difference. So once we practice that it is not a threat to our existence, you can actually override a lot of these pesky little ways that our brains are working in.
Yeah, that was beautiful. And yes, indeed, when we experience a financial loss, it's perceived as a physical pain. And when you
Yeah.
have physical pain or a threat, you basically activate the amygdala, which is the fight or flight or freeze system. But most of the time, fight or flight. Don't freeze in front of a lion again. And so basically, when you lose,
Unless you're sheep.
you'll be yeah, even though like
Sheep are hilarious,
and
man.
basically when you lose you will you will feel the stress. So basically your amygdala will light, okay? But when you know this process, when you know that human nature is like that, then when you follow on your Wednesdays, you have tools and actions that can help you to quiet down this activation, this enabling of the amygdala, of the limbic system indeed, through breathing, through journaling, through self-speaking, self-image, self-empowering talk as well. There's multiple options.
Lupek has a question. After starting my trading journey, my stress levels and also emotions to some point in everyday situations are way lower. Is this okay and safe? Honestly, I think that's a good thing. I think people are too overreactive to everyday situations. I'm like that as well. This is why people think I'm a little bit of a psycho, because it's like, D, you don't react to challenging situations. And I'm like, yeah, because what was that meme? I trade NQ, nothing scares me. It's kind of that same situation. But for me, I think it was a good thing because I was a little bit, when I was younger, I was a little bit fiery and maybe passionate would be the word, and I would blow up in every challenging situation that came up. But since I've been trading, it's literally changed my whole way of looking at the world. I don't see how it wouldn't be safe, but Jerome, maybe you can chirp in to tell us: is it safe? Does it turn us into psychos? I don't think so. I think it makes us better.
No, no. I mean, you shouldn't like remove emotions. That's what makes us human, right? I mean, that's the beauty of life. That's the beauty of human nature for me. It's emotions, being able to feel, being able to resonate with what happens with the same event. You can have one individual that's happy and the other that's sad, you know. And so that's the beauty of human nature as well. um, the goal is to learn how to live with them in the midst of the wind. You know, the wind is here. Do you prefer rain or sun? Okay, whatever you which one, whichever you prefer, whatever the one you prefer, it's gonna happen. If you live in Ireland, you're gonna have more rain. If you live in the Bahamas, you're gonna have more sun. But in the end, it's gonna happen. So it's all about
But are you going to
you know,
get depressed if you get the opposite of what you like? So this is the
yeah,
real
like
question here.
yeah,
Yeah.
on a long-term basis, basically we go back to expectation. Expectation leads
Yeah.
to dopamine. If you have better than what you expect, you have a dopamine increase. If you have worse than what you expect, you have a dopamine decrease. Dopamine decrease leads to mental depression, depression episode, and the repetition of depression episodes leads to depression syndrome. So yeah, that could lead to people who love
Val,
sun, but for example, I know somebody, very nice example, who actually moved out to Ireland to join her husband, but she didn't want to initially. She just like joined him, and she got depressed because of the weather. And she's not used to like bad weather, and she's just like, she just loved the sun, and that's human nature. But his husband, like, he would pay for the rain because that's what he's grew up with, and that's what he loves.
yeah. Similarly, I am not too in favor of like constant rain, but I do love the cooler weather over in the UK. Even though I'm from Belgrade, Serbia, we have Mediterranean weather, and yes, maybe a couple of months where it's quite cold, but already from like March onwards, we start having really nice weather. So I thought that when I started living here in the 2000s, that I was going to be super depressed over here, but there is a depressive disorder that does tend to be more frequent in the countries that are overcast, that are very cloudy and it's always raining. It's no accident that some of those countries, including the UK, we have slightly more incidents of violence and melancholy, because people are just generally a little bit more depressed than normal, because you don't have the natural sunlight, and these days we all sit inside. One great thing about where I am now is there's so much light, so even if it's a cloudy day, you just have so much light, and I'm definitely feeling like that's better for me. Whereas when I was in London, it was all like buildings, and you barely see the sky, let alone any light. So it was all just artificial light through and through. So maybe there's something to that as well, making sure that you're exposed to the light every single day. That's the Andrew Huberman method, right? He always says that in order for you to reset your circadian rhythm, that you need to get that light exposure early on in the day, as early as possible, whenever you can. And that naturally just sets your circadian rhythm back. Now, obviously, if you're working nights, you probably don't want to do that. And I know I certainly had a night job for many years as a musician, for 20 years. And I know that it did affect my health, for sure. So, everything is connected. Everything is connected, definitely. We do have another question from Val PA. Hey, Dean Jerome, how do you personally deal with stressful trades that put you on tilt? How do you manage to stay composed or bounce back? Jerome, do you want to start?
I'm gonna give yeah, please, thanks. I'm gonna give the truthful answer. No trades put me on tilt anymore, to be very honest with you. So the Jerome of months ago would have answered, I am a victim of the tilt. I can identify, I feel tilt, and I get absorbed. I used to get absorbed by it. I used to make mistakes, to revenge trade, oversize, FOMO, get back in, extend my stop losses. But today, I follow my process. So a trade can be stressful, but yeah, 99% of my trades are not emotion involved. I mean, I deal with them. So I don't allow the generation of stress from a trade, yet I'm human. So sometimes it happens, in full transparency, but it's stress. I'm not, I'm stressed. No, it's stress. It's a physiological process. And when I stress, I am way far. I mean, tilting is not even in my mind. It's not even a possibility. It's out of my being. It's not anymore in my being, to be very honest with you. If I get caught in tilt, that means I'm in very bad shape and very bad mental mood, and it won't come overnight. I mean, to be able to tilt again, I should lose like months in a row to be able to lose my mental stability, this mental strength I have built, this structure, this stability I have, my inner networks. I would have to have a huge thing, a huge event to break it all. So right now I have strengthened all of it. But yeah, please go ahead, D. Share your thoughts about it.
Yeah, so I'm similar. Like, I don't, every time I feel like I'm stressed in a trade, it probably means that I shouldn't be in that trade for whatever reason. It's either because of the size of it, or maybe I didn't read into the whole day properly, or perhaps I'm carrying over my London session views, which is something I have been dealing with recently. So that might cause me a bit of stress. But full on tilt, where I'm just losing accounts left, right, and center, and just I don't know when to stop, that just doesn't happen. Like, I can have a day where I hit the daily loss limit, but it's not that stressful because my other days are usually bigger than my daily loss limit. So I don't know. To me, it's whenever you're stressed about a trade, it means that you're doing something that you're not supposed to be doing. You're either
Right.
oversized, so therefore each trade will hurt a lot more than it should, or you are not entirely sure of the setup in the first place, so you shouldn't be in it. If you're not confident that you've seen that setup play out before and you're just fish out of water, you have no idea what's going on, and you can't explain the trade to yourself. I think Bon agrees. Do you agree, Bon? Yes, you agree. Yes, my little doggy. Um, so if you can't explain the reason and the outcome that should happen for your trade, and you know where you're going to exit, why you entered it, I think that introduces the lack of confidence and therefore fear into the trade, and stress by default, right? So I think the more you know your playbooks and the more that you can do the repetitions to really get to know your playbooks, that will help you to be less stressed overall. But tilt after so many years shouldn't be something like, for example, if I get to a point where I'm 1100 down on the day and I just cannot make it work because it's either the market is quiet, or usually it's, for me, as the market is quiet, it's not doing anything. um but very rarely do I get tilted because the markets are moving. If the markets are moving, I'm usually able to take advantage of it, because that is what we want as traders. It makes things a little easier. Now, if I miss the original setup and then I'm trying to fumble to get into a continuation trade, that becomes a little bit tricky for me, but I know that that is my weakness. So therefore, I'm not going, oh, yeah, this is definitely the day where I'll make money. I'll be like, oh, God, single direction day. Damn it. And then, I try to be a little bit more mindful of how I'm going to enter a position. If it doesn't work, I will just leave it alone. Maybe try a couple times. But if I get to, I'm already inching minus 1K, minus 1.1K on a day, I'm like, yeah, it's not happening today. So I look at the larger time frame rather than focusing just on any single day outcome. I would be looking at my P&L from weekly and monthly perspective. And that sort of dilutes some of that fear and stress, because you're not so zoomed into that one day where you're malfunctioning for whatever reason. So maybe try that. Try to not be so sized up in a trade that it's going to ruin you or it's going to glorify you. It's like, oh, you're either going to be top 5 or you're going to lose the account. Like, what is it with the extremes in this line of work? Why don't we just, size the account properly per trade, and then just aim for the consistency over time? Not like, do or die, this trade is either going to make me or it's going to break me. It's like, we need to get away from that kind of extremist point of view. And yet I'm noticing more and more people are like, one trade breaks my account, or one day and I blow up. Why are you even in a position, and this is me talking to people as a coach pretty bluntly to everyone, why are you even in a position when one single day can blow up your entire account? Like, what is, let's say let's kick it up a notch. Let's say you've got $1 million and you put it all in your account, personal brokerage account, and you trade with so much size that one trade, one day of malfunctioning, and you will lose $1 million. Would you ever do that? And if the answer is no, Why the hell do you keep doing it with 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000? The equation is exactly the same. Okay? You're risking 100% of the balance on one day. Is that okay? Is that professional? I would argue no.
No. Yeah, it's not.
So why do we do it?
Do you see? Have you watched Lord of the Rings?
Yes.
I feel like when people get offended after a long time or they're first offended, they go at war like in the third opus, and they pull out the sword and they're like, for the Rohan, and like they go on the charts and get wasted.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good analogy. I like that.
Like it's fascinating. Anyway,
All right,
so
let's see.
yeah, if we don't have any if we have any questions, let's go on.
Yeah, I'm just looking. So
Yeah, sure.
let's see.
Otherwise,
Rigoberto keeps coming
here you
in
go.
here with the same question. Can someone tell me why Topstep is the best prop firm? Interested in a combine? Just get a combine. It's $49, man, and then try it out for yourself. Like
Just
I've seen
do
you
it.
in here quite a few times. You're always asking questions. It's like just try it, and Topstep has been here since like 2011, I think. 2013 or something like they've been here for 13 years, so they're not going anywhere, right? So at least that's they're not going to blow up tomorrow. But yeah, so Rigoberto, just get a combine. Yeah.
Beautiful. We spoke about cognitive overload a lot of times, and I mentioned it's a ceiling, and I re-mentioned it today. And learning fails when working memory is overloaded. If you are a student today, you gotta understand this sentence. Learning fails, and you gotta understand the power of sleep as well. But learning fails when working memory is overloaded. Your PFC, this zone, it can only, because it's huge yet, hold about 4 to 7 chunks of information at a time. So 4 to 7 chunks of information, what is it? There's a lot of this is not like, I'm not gonna vouch for this number. Some people in the world, they say we have tens of thousands of thoughts a day. I used to believe that, and now new technologies tend to show that we have only couple thousands, not even 10,000, less thoughts processes. So we call them evoked potential of actions in the brain. And this is something you measure with electrodes, with EEG, and evoked potential is a threshold crossed in terms of voltage, and you measure it, and it doesn't happen that much in the day. So I'm more of a student of this second school. So it's two schools, and whichever one you want to go with. So if you are juggling trade rules, recent P&Ls, up downs, you get out, you get back in, you get out, you get back in, news headlines, setup signals. If you trade multiple strategies, oh, I have a signal, oh, I have a signal, oh, I have a signal. Oh, are you a plane mover? I don't know the term in English. Like, do you send signals to planes so they can move? Like, what do you do? Are you a trader? Or you're at risk of cognitive overload, and that is in any line of work. I mean, if you have a work that any work needs a mental focus, right? So when you overload your cognition, you reduce performance, work performance. So, and this leads to impulsive or rigid behavior. Have you ever caught yourself in the mess of work? You have so much work to do, then a co-worker comes at you and asks something very simple, and you're like, get the fuck out here. Sorry, but that's impulsion. That's the impulse. That's the cognitive overload answer. That's not you. And then you go back to these people. Oh, sorry, did I yell at you? Did I, like, that wasn't me, right?
Oh yeah,
never
I've definitely done that. Yeah, so we used to have an open office where you didn't have cubicles or anything, and I was trying to concentrate, and I had big headphones on top of my head to signal to people not to bother me, right? And they were like one of those noise canceling headphones. But one of my colleagues kept trying to wave to me to try and like get my attention. I was like, I'm working, like leave me alone. And I said that several times. But at one point, he comes up and he taps me on the shoulder. And I just lost it. I was like, "Do you not see the effing headphones? Like, what the hell, man?" And he was like, "Whoa!" And then I had to apologize to him because, again, I was so into and I was coding something. It was very challenging. I couldn't quite figure it out, and it sort of worked, but I didn't know why. You know what? It's the worst thing in coding. It's like it works. Why? Like that should not work. So I was like super stressed, and I can definitely vouch for the loss of impulse when you're trying to concentrate. I was also going to say something else. So is this maybe when people are in trading, we all want to get there quicker. So what I find is that people want to spend all of their weekends backtesting and learning more and cramming more stuff into their heads, and then come Monday they are almost like completely exhausted. Is this also a part of your focus getting exhausted? So because isn't it they found it's an exhaustible resource, your focus? Is this the
Man,
same thing?
you're always advanced on the course. Look at the next slide at the bottom. Backtest fatigue is real. It leads to mindless confirmation. Dude,
hey,
that's
yes,
beautiful. But no, I mean that's perfect.
Here, yeah.
I love working with you. That's beautiful. You're so great. Thank you. So yeah, we're gonna go through it next slide. Keep it in mind.
Yes, okay,
That's beautiful.
Okay.
Perfect example.
I won't rush that.
So, no, do please so do so. But that's beautiful. Your mind wandering is connected to the topic. So I'm very happy to have prepared it. So I'm like, okay, great. That's a question that popped during the session. You know, that's very great for me as well. So smart strategy builders in trading, they reduce cognitive load by, and trust me, if you apply these 3 rules, at least the first one, if you just apply the first rule, you might increase by 70% your ability to have a payout. And I mean that. If instead of blindly or in a confusing way or approach entering or exiting, just watch your chart and tell yourself, if this and or this happens, then I would go long this number of contracts, ideally in this range entry, with a hypothetical take profit there and hypothetical stop loss there. If you do this, come back at us, tell us that it didn't work, and we'll discuss. But I'm sure it won't happen. That's the main difference, and I've seen that posted multiple times last week on Twitter by some people. That's the main difference between profitable traders and unprofitable traders. Profitable traders follow rules, but follow rules, in a if-then setup. And I'm 100% you resonate with that, Dee.
Yeah, this is what I teach in my market stalkers method. So we use conditional logic, so if-then or if-else conditionals, to get to a binary decision process. And I also teach people with flow diagrams, flow charts. Love them because I think they illustrate some abstract concepts that can be really tough to explain just on a pure chart in a very visual way that clarifies everything. So that is definitely a part of my teaching style, and it's worked to kind of get rid of the cobwebs that people have over their setups and playbooks down to a T. It's like, exactly what do you want to see here? If this happens, then this needs to happen in order to get to that part. If at any point that box breaks, there is no trade because you don't have all the conditions attached to it. I get criticized by, entering one trade that somebody yesterday kind of made a joke. Oh, Dee, the queen of explaining one simple trade for the longest amount of time. And I'm like, well, maybe if you did that, you would be more profitable. Just an idea. I give equal amount of weight to every single trade that I try to do, whether it's profitable or not. But I do like to talk it through, because there's a process behind it. What do I want to see? What am I seeing right now? I did my first daily live stream on my own channel after a hiatus of 2 years. And that's exactly what it was. The trade was a little bit hairy because it went to like a smidge of my stop loss. I think it was like two ticks away from my stop loss, but it worked out, and I actually ended up getting 1 hour out of it. It wasn't the biggest trade, but I talked people through it, and they're like, "Dee, are you going to exit?" And I'm like, "No, I'm going to commit to the stop loss. If it's like, I think the stop loss is at a pretty good area. If it takes me out, it takes me out." And then it turned around, like it was like drama, dun, dun, dun. And then it turned around just as it inched towards my stop loss, and it worked out. So I was like, you see, I committed to the trade and the trading idea. Why? Because I believed that I was using the appropriate size stop, and that in this situation, it should survive. And it did. But, some people have a problem with that. Me breaking down the setup to death because they want to click buttons. I don't want to click buttons. I want to make money. It's a different,
Uh, that's not because we want to click buttons. That's because we have a problem with their ego. That's more of that, and
maybe,
they expressed it
maybe.
through you because you were an opportunity for them to bounce on it, because they can't click buttons. That's the truth. They cannot click efficiently buttons. They
Yeah.
click like monkeys, and that is why they
Yeah.
took this opportunity.
Yeah. So some people have their own issues that they definitely try to project on us. And I remember
Exactly.
in the VIP, somebody was like, "Oh, I do 140 trades a day," and I was like, "Really? And how's that going for you? Can you get past keeping an account for 2 weeks?" And they're like, "Well, no, I usually blow up after 3 days." And I'm like, now we're getting somewhere. And I actually managed to get that particular trader from 140 trades down to 20 per day, which I thought was a huge achievement, considering they were just like having the mindset of, why don't Topstep take more trades? I don't get it. Why don't they take more trades? But then once I took them through some of my teachings, I talked about the stability of the systems over time, and why some of them who are swing traders like turtles, famous turtles, why their systems worked, even though they were only 30% profitable, and how generally the high accuracy systems over long periods of time tend to be a lot more unstable. And then they were like, "Oh, okay, I get it." And then they tried it, they reduced the frequency, they started using conditional logic, increased the risk reward just a little bit, not to like some crazy like 2, 3, 5 hour. No, just a little bit to get over that 1 hour hump. So they were trading from 0.5 hour negative risk reward to suddenly trading with 1.1 and 1.2. And guess what? That increased the stability of what they were doing so much that they didn't need to do that many trades in a day, certainly not 140, and they could get everything done in 20 trades and still remain in the account and not have super disaster days. So, seeing those kind of transformations, that is what I live for personally. And it's definitely to
Beautiful.
do with the brain. It's nothing to do with, me kind of telling them, "Oh, there we go." They themselves find it inside their own thinking processes. Okay, maybe I should try it this way. It could be easier, and it could be bringing me more success rather than being in this spin cycle of get funded, blow up, get funded, blow up. It's like, why does that keep happening? You have to start being a little bit more critical towards yourself if you cannot keep a hold of an account longer than a week or 2 weeks, even a month, I would argue. Like if you get into an account and it just immediately goes bad, maybe change that. Don't go full port on, or don't go 3 NQs at Globex Open on the first day that you get your account. Just an idea. Anyways, let's continue. Are you still with us, Jerome? Did we lose Jerome? Corrupt FPV. Yeah, you'll be able to rewatch this for sure, because it stays on Topstep channel. It will be under Eurotrade playlist, so you can do it. I think we lost Jerome.
Am I back? I'm back. Sorry, I got
Yes, you're
disconnected.
back now. Yes, you are back now.
Uh, I missed whatever was asked. Sorry.
Yeah, don't worry. Let's just keep going. You probably didn't miss much. I was talking about one of my VIPs who went from doing 140 trades per day down to
Oh yeah, with the
20.
or I just missed the
Yeah,
last minute
yeah,
or
yeah,
the last 30 seconds.
yeah, yeah. That's it. So
Okay,
let's
so
carry
but
on.
thank you for sharing. Sorry for getting disconnected.
All right, let's continue. Let's continue. I'm looking
Perfect.
forward to the next slide.
Sure. So basically, and thanks for bouncing on this if then. That's the premise of functional and efficient trading, actually. And then you add everything you mentioned: journaling, flow charts, for example, practicing in low pressure, uh, like sitting at your table at your desk and watching your strategy humbly with transparency and telling yourself, okay, I should and must reduce this and I could improve that. And that's how you reduce friction between intention and action. Remember, we talk about reactivity. Reactivity is this window between an event and a reaction. Okay. And through learning, you can increase your ability to reduce the friction between intention and action. Don't know if it makes sense, nerdy, but by learning you can get better, which makes sense. But you got the point. So there is a risk of overlearning if you don't adapt, like we said. So repetition. You've heard us say repetition is how you build neural structure. Repetition. But repetition without reflection is rigidity, not mastery. Okay, and that's what we are taught at school as well. If you just learn, that's going to be a brick in your brain, and then the brick is a brick. And when a pattern is repeated too much without new data, and please, we're gonna spend some time on just these four elements. So when a pattern is repeated too much without new data, the brain does three things. It begins to filter out anomalies, and we're going to go into each and every detail. It strengthens the current bias, and it becomes less sensitive to nuance. So this is how you get to cognitive dissonance. This is how you get closed-minded. Okay, so what does that mean? That means when you have a belief, or beliefs, uh, you have a pattern, a belief pattern. And when this pattern is repeated too much, 1 plus 1 equals 22. 1 plus 1 equals 22. I never had a new data telling me that 1 plus 1 equals 2 or 1 plus 1 equals 7. So my pattern, repeated pattern, is 1 plus 1 equals 22. Remember, verify the source of your information. How do I know if what I'm learning is truth, right? So then I come to you and I tell you 1 plus 1 equals 4. And you're like, I'm going to filter out this anomaly. This guy is an anomaly. How does he come with 1 plus 1 equals 4? You know? And it will strengthen your current bias. I'm going to explain to you why 1 plus 1 equals 4, but you're going to only tell yourself, yeah, 1 plus 1 equals 22. This guy's out. And you become less sensitive to difference. You will not even hear me. If there's a second me coming to you, you will not listen to me at all. And this is what we call cognitive dissonance. And this is very dangerous, ladies and gentlemen. Please, there have been hundreds of thousands of brains analyzed, and I've learned this years ago, not a couple years ago, years ago, and that led to my career, to my journey nowadays as a brain specialist. So basically, after reaching 35 years old, okay, years young, I might say, after reaching 35 years young, 95% of people have 90% of their brain networks rigid. Like 95% of people older than 35 have 90% of cognitive dissonant information. That doesn't mean that what you know is wrong. What I'm saying is what you think you know, you believe is the truth. And I see this, if you're as young as us, you can relate it to your parents, perhaps. Like, my parents have a lot of wrong beliefs. They don't know they are wrong, but when I try to like tell them, they didn't have the chance to be as educated as us, like my brothers and sisters. Thanks God, my parents have been able to put us in a well-established education system, and we followed it. But we've taught a lot to our parents as feedback, right? And we're like, no, that's not it. And like, my parents could literally tell you 1 + 1 = 4. They want for this example, but this is the level of cognitive dissonance, and it's human nature. Again, it's not stupidity.
So is it to do with, because you said 95% of people have
Yes.
90%. So what about the other 5%? That's what I want to explore. Because I have a mom who's she's going to be 78 this year, and she is somebody who's very open to learning new things. Even now, like, sometimes I call her an alien, because she's just like not a normal old woman. First of all, she doesn't look it. And second of all, she decided about 7 years ago, so that she was like already over 70 years old. She decided she was going to get into law because she needed it for some stuff that was happening around her house and stuff. And she's like, I just want to learn more about it. So now, whenever she's going through like a legal thing, every lawyer that she faces, they think she's an ex-lawyer because
Wow.
she's crazy. Like, she's a crazy woman, but she has so much neuroplasticity, I think, that she kept learning new things. She does come from an accounting background, so she was already a pretty intelligent lady, and then she just kept learning. And then one day I went there for her birthday, and she said, oh yeah, by the way, I installed a security system all around the house. And I was like, oh, who did you get to come and install it for you? And she's like, no, I mean, I installed it. Like, I set up the cameras, I climbed up, I just watched some YouTube videos, and I was able to do it. It's like, this is an old lady who's supposed to be like, I can't use computers. And she's like, no, I went on YouTube, I got all of the things done. So is that like the 5% of people who are still learning, and they still have neuroplasticity happening, and neurons firing and learning new stuff? So can we actually do something to prevent that? And can we, more importantly, change the rigidity of the brain by doing something more creative and being more open to something like trading, for example?
Okay, so very beautiful example, as always. Thank you. So first, the brain is not rigid, it's plastic. I know you've not said that, but the process of repetition builds rigidity. The brain is beautiful, it's plastic, yet it's tricky. But so let me bounce back on that. I'm gonna ask you a rhetorical question. I already know the answer. Does your mom have a positive mental attitude and open-minded mindset?
Well, obviously, yeah, she's always
Yeah,
open
but
to new things.
exactly.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I've mentioned that I've studied 4 years, and again, I'm a very young and humble student still. I've studied psychology of success. Why do less than 1% of people succeed? Why do 1 to 5% of people succeed? And you have psychological traits as baseline for failure and for success. And that's what led me to studying neurophenomenology, which is the human the place of consciousness in the human brain, and how we process thoughts, feelings, and emotions. So basically, it's like trading. Okay, when you get asked, or when I get asked, okay, how did you get profitable in trading? And we explain it on paper. It's simple. It's simple to follow, right? I mean, I'm not saying it's not difficult. I'm saying it's a simple process to follow. Build rules, get a math behind it, but most of it, stick to your rules, stick to the rules you set up, right? And this is the hardest part. I see every single day people like, yesterday I was very much disciplined, but today I wasn't. I was not. Okay, Ben, what happened?
Back in the day, the Topstep apparel, like they have like clothing and stuff. So a few years ago, they actually had a whole line of follow the effing rules, like full on. That was actually on t-shirts, it was on like caps and stuff, like hats. And I kind of feel bad that they don't have it still, because I think that's like such a perfect sort of straight to the point. Yeah, follow the effing rules, just stop the nonsense and stick to the rules, right?
Exactly. So, but why do people don't do it? Because the brain makes you feel anything you make different is uncomfortable and wrong. Uncomfortable and wrong. First uncomfortable and then wrong. So you want to lose weight, you're like, okay, I'm not gonna take a dessert, and then your brain, right after you finished your meal, is like, oh, what about this cherry cake? And you're like, what? I don't want it. And you're like, somehow you
or
want
just eating like out of boredom or emotional things as well. I've seen some people who are heavily overweight and they're like, but I really don't eat that much in the day. And then you sit with them, like you spend a day with them, they eat like they maybe don't realize how much stuff they're like. Let me give you an example. I had a friend who she moved back to Australia, but we were super close, and she was pretty big lady. So I came over to her house and we were just sitting down and watching TV and just kind of chatting away. She was drinking 2 liters of like normal Coke, and then she made popcorn with so much butter that butter was like all just covered, like it was like a liquid at the bottom of it, like you couldn't even feel the crunch. It was horrible. And then after that, she took a piece of bread, and I thought she was having cheese with it because of the thickness of the thing that she was putting on it. It turned out that was butter. That's some more butter. Like literally, it looked like a piece of cheese. And I'm like, you're eating that with carbs and the 2 liters of fat Coke and all of that. And then you're like, oh, I really don't eat that much. Apart from the 3,000 calories that you just consumed in front of me, just me being here. And she's like, yeah, but I didn't eat anything else today. You're still overeating.
That's like
and
people
it's
said, I don't
crazy.
trade that much. How many trades did you take? 55.
Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah,
what?
55. Yeah. 55. How do you journal that? You don't. Cut down your trading size. So I actually draw parallels between dieting and trading quite a lot, because it's similar, right? It's all about habits. It's all about doing things mindlessly versus stopping yourself at times when you're about to do something mindlessly and emotionally. And it's the toughest thing. It's really not easy. We are up against ourselves. You're not fighting anybody else. You're not really fighting the market. You're fighting yourself. And once you realize that there is a better way, things become a little easier, but it's still not easy. It's like there's so many things that you have to change about yourself and your reactions and how you behave in challenging situations, that very frequently it brings a complete personality transplant after it's all said and done. We do arise different people out of this journey, for sure.
Exactly.
I know I did.
And just to close your beautiful example, there's a reason why not everybody is successful and why only a few people are successful in life and in trading. Because every single day you wake up with what we call the wheel of motivation. When I used to be at school, I can clearly remember, and I pray to God every single day to thank Him to have given me the strength to go through this. I used to hate waking up for school, but I used to be very much motivated. I had a very strong desire of learning. I hated school. I mean, not uni, but school before university. I mean, high school. Before high school was very cool, but you're young, you don't understand anything, right? High school was bad. University was great. So I remained highly motivated. And what you highlighted with your mom's story is motivation, wheel of motivation for learning. Because motivation, remember, is a very ephemeral emotion. It can go up and down in a spark. You go to Tony Robbins for a weekend, you pay 4 bands, then you come back, and then motivation is down, And that is exactly why only a few people are successful, because every single day, like Alex Ferreira, 7:30 alarm, wake up, sauna, meditation, there's a routine. It's boring. It's extremely boring. Success is boring. Please listen to entrepreneurs on podcasts. 8 out of 10, they will say somehow, perhaps not in the same wording, but they will express that success is boring. They hard work. They work 10 or if not more hours a day for some. Boring doesn't mean not doing anything. Boring means trading is boring. You stare up the chart and you wait for the setup. You don't chase the setup. You wait for the setup to come. If it doesn't come, you don't trade.
Yeah,
That's simple.
exactly.
Do you think when I was a student, I was eager to have some patience or to put my hands on work, right? And I love Dr. Steinbarger's example. Do you think when I had my first patients, or until today, when a patient goes, Alzheimer, I got on the Alzheimer, without the patient speaking? No, that's completely pointless and stupid, right? But in trading, it's exactly the same.
I did love that moment, actually. He was like, he starts shouting diagnoses as soon as the patient walks in. Depression, anxiety. That's exactly what people do with trading, right? It's like they don't diagnose the chart. They just immediately go to trades. So I love his saying that look for understanding. Don't look for trades. Look for understanding first, and trades will come as a result of that. So that's why, again, I get criticized a lot for creating my hypos and then creating the levels. And you would just do an effing trade already. It's like, there's a process to follow. I know it's not super exciting. I'm not a super exciting trader because I don't do a million trades. I do 1 to 3 per day, and that's over a course of like 8 to 12 hours in different sections. And I know that's not fun. People are like, Dee, are you going to do another trade? And I'm like, probably not. I'm happy with that one. Wasn't the biggest one, but it's a trade. It worked out, and that's all we're going to get today. Oh, but just do another one. Are you looking for longs now? And I'm like, no, I'm not going to flip and flop because that's not a part of my plan today. Oh, go on, step outside. It's like dieting when you're trying to, diet and behave. People are like, go on, just, have a beer. Have you ever seen that? Like people who are trying to better themselves and they're like, oh, live a little. Yeah. There's this belief that by doing something out of your routine and out of the rules that you set for yourself is somehow living a little. And I would equate that to, do more trades, live a little. To me, that's not living. To me, that's destroying the good work that you put in. Different mindset, I suppose. Yeah.
And that's beautiful. For me, like I was thinking, like, let's say I have a patient that come in, and this patient has a medical condition. Let's say it's diabetes, okay? So diabetes is a medical condition in which your pancreas and your body is not able anymore to process sugar the proper way. So you either lack insulin or, in English, glucagon, I don't know, the other enzyme that helps you regulate sugar. So do we have the same therapeutical protocols? Do we have the same diagnosis tools? Do we have the same medications, therapeutics for type 1 diabetes or type 2 diabetes? No, we don't. So when you have a setup, you can have a long setup or a short setup. But for every setup, you can put 1 lot, 2 lots, 3 lots, 5 lots, whatever. So for some patients, depending on their medical conditions and physiological conditions, one medic might not be adapted because we will have counterindications or a high risk of adverse effects. So let's say you have a setup, but there's a high news, then that is your perhaps warning signal telling you, okay, I have the setup, but perhaps the condition is not matched. I'm going to wait. And in medicine, it's exactly the same. You have a setup, but my job is to identify the exhaustivity of all the conditions surrounding the setup, like the patient. Not gonna call a patient a setup, but we got the point. A medical setup. So we have the setup, we identify the conditions, and then we ask the patients, So you don't ask anything about the market to the market, but you ask to yourself, and then you execute. Then you put a treatment on. So sometimes your confidence rate is very high, even though it's close to 100% confidence rate, not win rate. You don't know if it's gonna work. You know, the win rate of the medic is 85%, for example. You don't know if the patient is going to be receptive to it, how sensitive he's going to be, how if he's going to have adverse effects, and how frequent, how intense they're going to be, what kind of adverse effect. It's exactly the same. It's exact. I mean, not exactly, but you get the point. So
Yeah,
approach the market
it's a
the same way.
problem. It's a problem with variables, with multiple variables,
Exactly.
and a certain expectancy of outcome, but with lots of variables. And that's very, very similar to trading. You're absolutely right. Yeah, and I don't think many people realize that. Again, they're thinking about it like every setup is always going to happen the same way. It won't. It might happen at a different time.
It will never happen the same way.
Yeah.
Perhaps twice, but never ever.
Yeah. And it will always look slightly different. So all of these variables, one time it might turn around pretty quickly and you won't be able to catch it. Another time it will turn around slower. Then a third time it might turn around with such a massive wicked candle that again you won't be able to catch it. All a valid setup, but all of these variables that make it unplayable.
Exactly. So I just checked the hour. This has been a fascinating session. I'm just gonna finish the slides, but there's a lot more to it. So I'm not gonna go through it, and we're gonna do it next week. But I'm very much surprised we've spoken that much. So we've spoken that much. So that's beautiful. So just to wrap it up, about when a pattern is repeated too much, we were there. This is cognitive dissonance, okay? And this is the curse of expertise. As I said, if your information is not truth, yet you believe it is, but you don't know it's not. But if it is not the truth, if it's not realistic, then you have overconfidence in outdated scripts. And studies on chess masters and pilots show that plateauing often follows overlearning, unless, remember what we said at the beginning of the session, remember attention and novelty helps you increase encoding capacity of hippocampus. So unless novelty and error monitoring are maintained. So what did the studies show? The studies showed that for chess masters and pilots, they have a learning curve, okay? Like everybody has a learning curve, any setup you put it in. And they notice that you have a plateau following overlearning, but you don't have this plateauing when novelty is introduced, novelty associated with error monitoring. So if it's just learning, and you don't have new data, 1 + 1 = 22, 1 + 1 = 22, guess what happens? Your brain gets bored of the knowledge you have. You know why every single scientist in the world always keeps learning? Because of this exact sentence. So our brain attention does not plateau. We always put novelty. We always seek for novelty because that's how our brains were wired. And that is how your mom was wired. And that is why she needs novelty, because she, like, perhaps she doesn't know it consciously, but unconsciously she knows that she doesn't want to plateau. And she knows that introducing novelty leads to that. And that's why curiosity is a beautiful gift. You should be curious. Depends how deep you should be. So for traders, a system must evolve with volatility, structure, and regime shifts. If you don't adapt, as we said, you're going to go into a wall, or you're going to look into the same lenses. But guess what? Your lenses might be a bit gross, you know? You should clean them. And then you'll see clearer. Or perhaps your vision has blurred out. You should go to an ophthalmologist, and he's going to tell you, okay, just change the glasses, you know, and he's going to adjust your sight. And here's the sentence: backtest fatigue is real. This leads to mindless confirmation, because you don't have the confirmation of the market. You have the after effect. So your brain is like, oh yeah, this, and this happens. So if I put 5 minutes here with this stop, yeah, I would have done 10 Gs. Yeah, okay. So now I'm going to backtest tomorrow, and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And then I remember myself, I used to backtest every single weekend. And I will not advise you to do it, but I will advise you to backtest on weekends as well. I'm not advising you to do it on all your weekends, but for the strategy building phase, it's crucial. The market closed, you should reflect on your week, and you should reflect on the past times you have not been able to go back to. And that's what I did for a long time. And then I felt backtest. I would go into the market on Mondays, and I would be like, damn, I'm exhausted. I didn't rest at all this weekend. It's like I traded the whole weekend, because you think.
I used to do the same thing. So where in the beginning, when I was trying to hone my skills, I did not have any weekends. I would spend 17 hours over the weekend doing back tests and trying to get better at reading price action, and then slowing it down, then speeding it back up. And then, so, by the time that I would come to the real markets, the idea was that everything felt like it's in slow motion, and then I was able to take advantage of it. But like you, I was absolutely exhausted. And I was a young person back then. I was sub 30. Now, over the years, I found that there is such a thing as overfitting the back test as well. Because, people will be looking at the last week and then going, well, if I had used this type of a stop loss for this particular setup, it's the similar setup. But, if I had only used a tighter stop, I could have gotten a larger risk reward. Therefore, I could have gone in with more size. Let me try that. But that's overfitting, because you're not using, you're using just 1 week as a sample size. You need to use 3 months as a sample size. So how does this setup look over 3 months, 6 months, a year? That's where the real value lies, to remove as much optimization as possible while still taking advantage of a similar playbook, if that makes sense.
Complete sense, 100%. So there's a better learning loop, and you expressed it. It's test, reflect, refine, retest. And it's not test, repeat, burnout. That's what we used to do, right? That's what you just expressed. And people don't know that. They don't know that repetition without reflection leads to rigidity, and rigidity leads to
there's a thing called Kolb's experiential learning cycle, and it's actually probably one of the better ways to learn how to trade. It means you find out about the abstract concept, then you go into the real environment, then you review and improve, and then you repeat the cycle again. So it's not like, oh, you just mindlessly learn and you never review. No, reviewing is a huge part of that. Reflection, very, very big part. And I think without that, you're just trying to cram things into your head as much as possible, but it never sinks in. It's just, and like you say, an overload of new information that you can't really use efficiently. So there's no point, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, completely. Well, thank you. We have more content, but the clock is ticking. So thank you all for your attention. If you have any questions, we can go through a couple of questions. But overall, thank you again for this beautiful session. So it's going to be 2 parts at least. So learning process, part 1 was today. Part 2 will be next week. Love that. How did you like the session?
Right. So we've come to the end. Thank you. We will continue this conversation next week. Obviously, this is happening every single Wednesday. So let me just see. We have somebody saying, Dylan Parker, bootstrapping doesn't work as a development process. If it doesn't crash, you aren't pushing as much as is needed for proper provisioning. Okay. Yeah, so cramming too much. Yeah, cramming too much in over a short period of time is not good. I actually have forced the drip feed system on the lectures that I teach people precisely because of this. I used to have people who were coming to me back in the day when we first released the program, and they were trying to get through all of the 60 lectures that are like between 45 minutes and an hour and a half length each. They tried to cram it all in 1 week and nothing would go in. And then we used to get silly questions. What are Q points? I don't understand this. And all I was doing is like, this you will find in lecture number 1, minute 7 mark 7 minutes 5 seconds. And then they're like, oh really, I totally missed that. Oh, how do you draw conterminal signs? That is also in lecture 1, level 1. Minute 15. And and I just got tired of answering those kind of questions. I'm like, we're supposed to offer the Q&A to ask things about setups, not, oh, where is this concept? And I'm like, that's talked about in the program. It's like, so I introduced a drip feed system, and people just did not like it in the beginning. I had so many emails that are like, what is this? You're now forcing me to slow down. You don't know anything about me, and blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, I know you've been asking a lot of stupid questions. I know that, which take up my time, your time, and it's just basically a waste of time for everyone. This is not coaching. This is just like you asking for basically timestamps. Where do I find this? It's like level 1, lecture 1. And since I've done that, there was an initial pushback, but then I started getting the following messages. Dee, I just want to thank you for slowing it down. I was trying to cram everything in 1 week, and it did not work. Nothing seeped in. Since you've given us the drip feeds system, everything sunk in, because I had no other choice than to learn about the concept and, like you say, go to the real market to see what that looks like before the next lecture is unlocked, because they have a week. So it's like, well, what am I going to do? Let me see what that looks like in real markets. That is the reflective part. You learn the abstract concept, then you go to see what it looks like in the real environment, then you review upon it. And that takes time. That's not going to happen in 2 days. It's not even going to happen in a week, but you will give yourself at least a chance to get there by, giving a week for the knowledge to settle in, and then to review upon that new experience. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. I don't think we have any new questions here, so we are going to finish it for the day. Hopefully you enjoyed this. I do believe we're going to find these, we're going to upload these slides into Topstep Discord. So Andrew, if you could sort that out with Jerome, that would be excellent. Usually we upload it in Trading-Psychology in Topstep Discord. If you want to throw them to me, I can give them to Andrew as well, because I know Bruno.
Yeah, I'm going to send it to you on Slack, because I don't know if I'm connected to Andrew, and please forward it.
So just send it to me.
Actually, I'm not going to share it today, because we have the part 2 next week. So we're going to share it next week, because people will have the content in advance and it can confuse them.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, so we're going to leave it this week so that the whole lecture is complete the following week, and then you can have all the slides. Brilliant. All right. Thank you all for being here. Yes. Thank you all for being here with us. This was the Neuro Wednesdays with Dr. Jerome and myself, Mark D. We will see you again very soon. Obviously, you will see me tomorrow, both for the Eurotrade and another episode of Lunchbox Trading during the main broadcast. But we will see Jerome next week, as usual, on Wednesdays. Thank you, everyone. Let's see what the day brings. It's going to be obviously an interesting week with Trump comments. Again, it never ends. But yeah, hopefully we can apply everything that we've learned today and carry on getting better and better over time. This has been the Eurotrade, Neuro Wednesdays. Have a great rest of your day.